Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to North Shore Live Cooper's Corner. We're live this evening, and this is January the 15th, 2014. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and a terrific New Year, and we're going to bring you the shows that you have requested the most, public service announcements, information out there for what you can do to help yourself, to help others, and if you're in a situation that needs some assistance, we're here to give you the platform to speak on. And this evening we are here with patent attorney JoAnne Denison, and the situation that is taking place on the 18th floor in the Daly Center. JoAnne is a patent attorney by profession, but always extends her hand to help others, regardless of whatever their problem may be legally, and she, offers whatever assistance she can, and doesn't take money for it, and that's the situation. But on top of that is that the First Amendment rights are being violated. And I think I can mention that we're supposed to be before the ARDC. So without me going into this any further, let me introduce you to my guest this evening, JoAnne Denison, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Bev.
Always good to have you. Anytime, we extend our hand to those that are in need as well, regardless of whatever the situation. And your goodness and your connectivity to humanity is outstanding, JoAnne. And you do this because you love the people, and you cannot bear to see wrong overwhelming the right, and senior citizens and everything. So you couldn't explain to our viewers, we're going to be at the ARDC next week, and that's the Attorneys Discipline and
Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission.
Okay.
And it's located at 130 East Randolph in Chicago, 8th floor. They're going to assign a hearing room, and the charges against me are very interesting. All I have done is blog. It's very interesting. I don't know that anybody else has ever been brought up on charges for just blogging. Most attorneys get in trouble because they steal things, or they don't file a brief, or they don't show up for court. Of course, I don't do those types of things. I try to get everything done and done on time, and I take my duties and obligations seriously. And I think sometimes I take them too seriously, or maybe they think so, because I don't look the other way when people are suffering, when people are having problems, and where justice was not done. And unfortunately, sometimes on the 18th floor, as you have experienced,
yes,
and with society's most vulnerable people, the elderly and disabled adults, there is justice not being done in all of the cases. And it's very sad, and I don't look the other way. What will be coming up next week is they have dropped my counts down because of some Supreme Court case that recently came out, to basically lying about the court, the judge. That's what they're most concerned about, which is very much untrue. The things that have been published on my blogs, and they might put them up here, but one of them is www.marygsikes.com. It has a lot of legal news on it. It has a lot of information about probate proceedings. And in fact, I think it has more information about the law and probate proceedings than you can find on any blog or any website that I know of. It tells the truth about what happens when you get to probate court.
The truth. About
how you're going to get a guardian ad litem, and like anything else, some of these people are good, some of these people are not good. You're going to have to expect they're going to charge a lot of money to an estate, if the estate has any money. You will also, the ward may be assigned an attorney. They're supposed to be assigned an attorney if they ask for an attorney. They're supposed to get a trial of it if they are under an incompetency proceeding if they ask for one. That unfortunately is not what we're finding out all the time. And I primarily right now go to court and I blog about these things. Okay, people contact me and I help advise them as what to do if they find that there is an injustice being done. And many of these people don't have any money. And of course, the first thing they do when they find a person that they're interested in bringing into a guardianship proceeding is they freeze their assets. So they have no assets. It's really a difficult situation because the concerned relatives, the ones that aren't in it for the money, often don't have the money to fight these proceedings. And there's, you can go downstairs. They actually have a new office downstairs in the basement of the Daily Center that was supposed to be the Senior Justice Center. I believe Gloria's been down there, a number of people, but they don't have any lawyers for anybody. There is nobody that's going to go and help people out for free. And it's such a shame because there should be a lawyer on each side, especially when you're talking about substantial amounts of money. People's homes they have worked for and saved years and years and years. People's cars, their bank accounts, the money that was supposed to sustain them in old age. And let's face it, most of us don't want to be in a nursing home. Those are not very good places. And so that money should have been used to pay for people to remain in their home with a caregiver, whether it's a relative or whatever. And so these are some serious things that are going on.
Well, I know for a fact, and that it is factual, because we unfortunately experienced 7 years on that floor in front of ex-judge Lynn Kawamoto. She's no longer there. She took off for Texas, and there's another judge that took off, Cesario, I believe.
Cesario is now gone.
Yes, she's gone.
Kawamoto is gone. I have heard complaints about many of the judges up on the floor. Some of them are true, some of them are not true. But I think when people bring these serious complaints, I think the ARDC should be looking at them instead of looking at my blog.
Well, they're afraid of being found out. And you write, as you sit there, exactly what's going on. You do a better job than the stenographer, or whoever she is.
The court reporter.
The court reporter that's there. Because, JoAnne, I need to tell you, this is not our first time around the block with any type of court proceedings, and we've noticed that words and phrases have been changed, and we know what we say when we're talking, and then when we get a transcript back, it's not the same wording, it's not the same phrase, it's nowhere to be found what we've made mention of. And you type and blog exactly with what's going on, who says what to whom and how it goes down. And the truth be known, your First Amendment rights are being violated. You're number one, an American citizen, you're a human being, and you're being treated as though you're a criminal because the Lawyers Club,
the powers that be.
Yeah, the ARDC are making it look like you're a criminal. You could have robbed a bank for how they're making you sound. You're just telling the truth. They're afraid of the truth, you know? They're afraid the sunshine's going to come in and show their cabal of what they've been doing, and they will either go to jail, it'll be dismissed. It's supposed to be the right arm of the Supreme Court here in Illinois. Does the Supreme Court know what's going on?
Well, one of the interesting things that I have found about in my research is the fact that the ARDC, which I find to be very troublesome, does not do yearly ethics reporting. And if you look at the Illinois state law, there is the Illinois Ethics Reporting Act of 2009, and just about every single state worker, 99% of them have to do this ethics reporting. And in fact, the judges get an even higher level of ethics scrutiny than the general state employee. And yet the ARDC is not reporting. I find that to be a real problem. I have pulled property records, we pulled public records, and we find problems there. And my question is, can we allege misconduct and go in and get more information on some of their extracurricular pay? And of course, the answer so far is no. If I go in there, I'm going to face more ethics charges. I have people who have come to me about various judges and said, can you look up this judge? And we look at them and we investigate them. We can't do a complete investigation. But if I were to go back and charge misconduct and in order to get more subpoena power, I can't do that right now because the ARDC would jump right down my throat. I also find it a problem, and maybe people can write. I mean, we'll give you the address at the end of the program, I hope, of the ARDC again. Please write to them. Ask them to do their ethics reporting, every single attorney or supervisor that is in that agency. We had a reporter, Janet Phelan. She was working and helping me for a period of time, and she called up some of the attorneys and said, why aren't you doing ethics reporting? Most of them slammed down the phone and were angry.
Wow.
There were one or two that said, oh my goodness, I didn't know I had to do that. That's terrible. We should go back and look at that. But that was the minority. And I find that to be a very saddening experience to have to report this on my blog and to the general public. The ARDC should do ethics reporting for every attorney, every manager and supervisor in that agency. And they should also have their salaries reported on the internet. My question, I think your question is, why are they coming after me and Ken Dukowski?
This is hard to hear because of all the attorneys that we know, the most honorable are you yourself and Ken Dukowski. He's a 77-year-old gentleman that's been practicing law 50 years.
More than 50 years.
Yeah, more than 50 years. And he's come to everyone's aid. And they wanted to hold him without a license because for the next 4 years.
Suspend him.
He'll be in his 80s. You think he's going to be practicing law in his 80s?
Well, knowing Ken, he probably will.
Well,
but because he will not give up helping people.
Yeah.
And I really do hope that when I am in my 80s, I am as healthy as Ken is and as dedicated,
very dedicated
to saving the world, making it a more just and honorable place to be.
Well, you know, when people go into court, this is usually not our
bailiwick.
Yes, well, we don't know what's going on in there. Those that are in there, they know how to run that ship. We're coming into foreign territory. We're coming in, hopefully it's just for one day or whatever it is, and that's it. But they've been doing this for years and years, and I need to tell you that even our judge, ex-judge, who has fled Illinois to go to Texas, she was totally incompetent. We would find her sometimes just off the handle, not even knowing whatever's going on. I wasn't even allowed to visit my mother for 10 months. They couldn't give me a real answer why, but that if I came down to the nursing home that she was in, downtown Chicago, which was like $15,000 a month.
Oh my goodness.
And they isolated her. She wasn't near anyone. That they would put me in jail. And out of the judge's mouth, Kawamoto said, make sure that the Chicago police don't pick her up, bring her to my courtroom. Now, what is that? What is that? And so, because she knew I wasn't going to leave my mother. After all, my mother was very frail. She had 3 teeth left in her mouth. They pulled all of her teeth because my brother, who was a dentist, he's passed on, he put gold crowns on, gold fillings, everything he could put gold in my mother's mouth. And they pulled her teeth. And they didn't want me to see her or talk with her. They took the phone out of her room. She couldn't talk. And they didn't allow her to eat. There was nothing wrong with her eating mechanism. My mother enjoyed eating. And she was a very good eater. And they put a GI tube in her stomach. The long and the short of it is that she eventually passed away from dehydration and starvation. You could put your index finger and your thumb together, and that was the size of her leg. I've never seen, this was like from the Holocaust, from a concentration camp. It's terrible. We've sent pictures to our attorney to be able to see that. And every time we would come in, she would strike it down that I couldn't talk, I couldn't speak, I couldn't visit my mother. I was being charged about $168 an hour just for a one-time visit to visit my mother. And had no idea why she was so groggy. And now we're learning that they put patches on her.
Psychotropic drugs.
Yes, to knock her out. She wasn't able to converse. She was sleeping. I would, Mother, wake up, I'm here. We only have an hour to talk. And not only that, is that the guardian ad litem that we had, Miriam Solo, fabricated lies about me regarding my mother, so that when she came into court, that it would be like I would be unable to visit my mother. And that was truly a lie, like they're lying about you, because we have recordings of what was said at that point, and pictures that we took, and nothing happened on the day that Miriam Solo said something happened. And we gave those CDs to the new guardian ad litem, which was David Martin, and for him to listen to, and he's supposed to be protecting my mother. He was the attorney that ex-judge Lynn Kawamoto appointed after we made a fuss regarding Miriam Solo, and she was removed. But she took a healthy portion of my mother's estate, money-wise, and
isolated her,
isolated
drugged her.
Terrible. She told me I can't come and visit her, I can't see her, I can't talk to her. What is that? I was power of attorney, and when we walked in the court, she had me removed because there was a $1.5 million of estate that they wanted to glom onto. David Martin, who was the guardian ad litem for my mother, after my mother passed away, was collecting a very healthy sum of money for 2 years after my mother passed. And Judge Kawamoto did nothing to stop that. She never even gave us money from the estate to bury my mother. She said there was nothing there.
And yet you started out with like $1.5 million in the estate.
Yes.
5 years prior.
That's right. And I cared for my mother for 5.5 years without, with being very frugal, caring for her. She was in her own apartment. I say because she wasn't ill. The only ones that made her ill was Miriam Solo and David Martin, and they took the guardianship away from me and my power of attorney because Miriam Solo brought in my mentally ill daughter, who was declared mentally ill right here in Lake County at the age of 7, and she was in 54 foster placements, all with the presumption that she was mentally ill, and no one could handle her in the state of Illinois, out of the state of Illinois. And this is what they put in charge of a 99-year-old elderly woman who was bedridden, by the way. All Mother had was arthritis. She wasn't suffering from anything else, arthritis. And we didn't even know. There's supposed to be a 100 questionnaire, which I had to fill out because our attorney, Karen Bowes, that we knew 27 years, is the one that, the Judas goat, that brought us into that courtroom to have done to us what was done. Karen Bowes, 27 years. I filled out all this information on this application, and I guess that's what they used to see how much money my mother had.
That's often what they do.
And we learned that my daughter didn't fill anything out because she's on a disability. She's mentally ill, and she's going to be 41 years old. Lake County didn't know what to do with her. And here in Lake County, we just asked for special education. And right away, the school district had us arrested for child abuse because they didn't want to pay for the care that she would have to have had for residential placement. And so it went from bad to worse. And Gail Tuller Friedman, she's the one who was doing all the bad things to us. My husband had a heart attack. We had 6 other children to take care of. And yet this 7-year-old, she attempted to asphyxiate our 3-month-old. And that was okay because the court says that she was perfectly fine, but we're no good. We're no good as parents. And then the court, with Gail Tuller Friedman's help, put her in a halfway house with 6 other girls or 8 other girls, and they are the ones that, before and after the fact, Jackie Gibbons in 1982 bludgeoned her parents to death in Skokie. And my daughter was the roommate of Jackie Gibbons.
She was housed with her.
What are they doing with an 8-year-old in with an 18-year-old rooming? I've got all the documentation. We have all the paperwork. We have everything. I was in that courtroom 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks in Skokie. And they...
Trying to get that resolved.
Yes, and it was incredible. And, you know, they locked the doors in the courtroom because they had to show the remains of what the Gibbons bodies looked like. And
oh my goodness.
It was terrible. But I had to be there because I know my daughter is severely ill. She's not retarded. She's mentally ill. She even tried to start a fight with me on the 18th floor in front of the attorneys, and no one wanted to step in, except her attorney that she had from Catton Law Firm, who said she doesn't know what she's saying. Remember, she is a special needs person. She suffers from a mental disability. He himself made that declaration.
And yet,
and then they went into the court
law, right.
like nothing ever happened.
Right.
She doesn't even know what's going on. She's being assaulted by the system just as we are. Mm-hmm. Maybe worse because monies were taken in her name. I don't even think she received the monies. Large sum of money, large sum. And we don't know where 16 checks went to. We believe that that Miriam Solo, who was in charge at that time, was signing my daughter's name and taking the checks, which was from a annuity fund. And they were holding me responsible. I had nothing to do with that. I wasn't even a part of her banking or anything. And we still never received the final accounting of the case. And
even though it was 2 years
yes.
and what, $40,000 or something?
No, they were charging me with $96,000
after the case was closed.
After the case was closed, and
Then you reported this to the authorities,
the
right?
bonding agent Trausch, he took the money. He took whatever was left in the account, the $96,000. He took the money. And ex-Judge Kawamoto said it was okay. He could do that. I'm the daughter. I'm the only person that was caring for my mother.
Why did Trausch get $96,000?
Well, that's because Karen Bowes, even though my mother, we went to her attorney and signed all the papers. My mother made all this stuff to her accommodations that I didn't need a bonding agent. And Karen Bowes took me to her bonding agent, which was Trausch on the 12th floor.
Okay.
And that's how the money started flowing. I had to pay him $1,200 or $1,500 every...
Per year?
Yeah, and there was no need to because I wasn't required to be bonded. But
That's interesting.
But Karen Bowes did that, And we were in court 7 years.
Over this, right.
7 years. And
Well,
mother has
why
passed
was the $96,000 taken, though, at the end? I don't understand that.
because that was what the checks were building up for. It was 96,000 or 110,000 something. And I kept asking our attorney. They said it was being deposited. I said, what's the account? Who is the holder? What is the bank?
This is
How
very
much
common.
money?
Yeah, this is very
Well,
common.
common-
Nobody's got it. Nobody knows where it is.
Common because you're aware of it. We didn't know. We came into that courtroom like lambs to the slaughter. And I told you that ex-Judge Kawamoto is, I don't know if she's on something. I have no idea if she's taking medication. I mean, it would be a good thing for the people who come into that courtroom to know that if the judge is ill, that she's on medication. Maybe it wasn't working right for her.
I really don't think that's the thing. I think that Kawamoto, from what I've seen of her, she was smart. She knew what was going on, but she too.
And a thief.
But she was part of whatever is going on up
Yes.
there that needs an investigation.
Absolutely.
And the problem is, I would hear her say, A over here, B over there. Like, I remember her turning to somebody and saying, oh my gosh, you spent, and it was like $100 on gas or something ridiculous like that. And then she would turn around and she would award exorbitant fees to the guardian ad litem.
We came into court sitting in the back and listening to a case that she had up there. And this young man, who was very devout to his mother, came to the judge and asked the judge for monies to buy her, dentures, because evidently the nursing home that she was in pulled her teeth too. This was new to me. This is a new game. I didn't know anything about that.
That's something they do on the 18th floor. They pull gold teeth. You're not the only one. I actually have somebody that reported it to me also, that they pull the gold teeth of the seniors. I just got another case like that, and it's some dentist. Oh, I know, the Drabeks. They told me that. The Drabeks.
Yes.
Same thing happened to
Aunt
me.
Lyda.
On the 18th floor, if your senior has gold teeth, they will pull those gold teeth for no reason, and we don't know where they go. But if you're interested in that, go ahead, write me. My blog is up there, JoAnne at Denison Law. I'm running a not-for-profit now so that I can really get into this and not have to do billing or charge people or anything like that. And
what happened is
go on with the gold teeth.
There was a sister who was the guardian, and the sister required $96,000 of the mother's estate. Here, the son was asking for minimal.
This is your estate?
No,
this is
minimal
what you heard.
amount.
Right.
Yeah, we came in and we were just listening to what was going on.
Right.
And he wanted dentures for his mother so she could eat. And he said she can't eat. She needs to have dentures to eat. And the daughter was asking for the $96,000 so they could buy a tombstone for her. And
I think you told me this story before.
AB's Irish Rose, something like that, they were going to have
something
carved
fancy.
out on the stone. And common sense says, feed the woman. What is the matter with these people? They're going to give $96,000 to put her beneath this granite rock. She's still alive. She just needs to eat, but they wouldn't give the son the money so he could buy dentures for his mother. We didn't even know that was coming down the line to what we were going to be going up against. And I would raise my hand to want to ask a question, and when I said to Karen Bowes, I said, I need to talk to the judge. Karen Bowes said, well, what do you want to say? I said, I need to tell her that my daughter Kimberly is mentally ill. She doesn't know what she's doing. She has no idea. She's been in 54 placements, and she's on, aid and help, and if she can't care for herself, how is she going to care for my mother? This is my mother. And Karen Bowes then walked away from me. She didn't want to hear about it. So this is someone, 27 years as our attorney, took care of business, the house, whatever we had, did our wills, everything. And this is who we put our faith into someone who turned right around and actually literally murdered my mother because she didn't give her teeth, let her keep her gold teeth, and she didn't let her eat or swallow, And they
That
put
she
this-
wasn't living with you, and you said that you would have taken her in and taken care of her.
Absolutely. I said, we'll take her.
Right.
We'll bring her to us. She'll live with us.
Right.
I mean, we hired a lady to even be with her in her apartment because we didn't want to take her independence. So if I, as the daughter, didn't want to take my mother's independence and wanted her to be a human being and not a Holocaust survivor or a concentration camp, detainee. Actually,
Right.
that's what it was. What gave the court the right to murder my mother? They took away her eating ability. They stuck these tubes in her, and then they didn't give her the food and nutrition and the hydration that she needed, and she died. That's not even the worst of it, that she did pass away, is that we couldn't claim her body for 8 days. We didn't know where she was at. They took
know,
her
it's
body,
terrible.
and we didn't know where she was at.
But yet, these court-appointed attorneys actually have a fiduciary duty to you to let you know she passed away and where the body was.
No, absolutely
Right, they did
not.
not do
They
that.
never told us that.
Right.
And
that's wrong.
And
The administration of psychotropic drugs without your mother's knowledge and consent
No,
is
and
also completely illegal. Isolating her, secreting away a senior is illegal.
they left it up to Miriam Solo to do all the dirty work and then to abuse my mentally ill daughter further. It's heartbreaking because I am one of the founding members of the Alliance for the Mentally Ill here in Illinois, 35 years. And we go to fight for the help and care for those who are mentally disabled, any disability. I'm there. And for 35 years, I was running all over to Elgin State Facility, to all over to help these people, to let their story be told, to connect with the parents. And this, what they did to my daughter is outrageous. What the state is doing to you is outrageous. A blogger. What would Google say, or Apple say, or anything? You need to connect with these people. You are just a blogger, and you're telling the truth, and they don't want it to be heard. They don't want it to be known. They are keeping secrets. What are their secrets?
Well, I think it's the same secrets that are going on in the 18th floor of the probate court. Nobody in their right mind would ever let what happened to your mother happen to her. If everything were honest and respectable, you would be able to walk into court and say, I know my mother, I love my mother, and if everything were on the up and up, the guardian ad litem would agree. You would have your mother in your own home. You would have caregiving for her. I have no idea why $96,000 was taken out of that account, because Trausch said that's absolutely ridiculous.
And they did some kind of mathematics on whatever they did, and we had 3 CPAs, 3, and everything was on the penny. And they stood up in court and they were doing figuring, and they said, oh no, this is all wrong. This is what she owes. What? I didn't even know what's going on.
I've seen that before too. I have a case now.
Who
where
gives-
they're churning the bill.
Who gives David Martin and his daughter, who was there, or Miriam Solo, the
David
right?
Martin has a daughter.
Sure, she's an attorney who's also
she?
corrupt.
Who is she? I'll let you think about that one. I'll let
Okay.
you, because I hear.
Yes, she also is part of his cabal.
Well, whatever is going, this thing that needs an investigation on the 18th floor. But next week, what's going to happen is, because of these stories that are absolutely incredible like this, they believe that they can bring in 3 members of a tribunal, and they're going to convince them that this is all lies, because it's too outrageous to believe. And unless I were blogging, and it's mostly about the Sykes case, the missing $1 million in gold coins, the guardians ad litem who said they investigated. Now we have the record on appeal. The record on appeal, there were no subpoenas submitted to the banks, no return of subpoenas. It's not there. I guess the ARDC is going to put them on again, and I'm going to say, the record on appeal is sitting here on my laptop. I'll pop it open, look for them. They're not there. And the fact there was not even any summons and complaints ever served on Mary. It's not there. I just subpoenaed Harvey Waller, who was the original attorney, and I believe at various times in court, he said, Mary's not been served. That didn't stop what was going on to adjudicate her disabled, incompetent. She was not there at her own hearing, and she was not given the required 14 days notice either to her or to her sisters. The sisters' declarations have been on my blog. I don't know, is the ARDC saying those are a lie? I really don't know. You can see the complaint, the ARDC complaint, which is fairly incredulous. You've read it.
Yes.
I took the depositions of Gloria Sykes, Scott Evans, who was highly respected. He had very high military and intelligence clearance, worked for the government for years. Kathy Bakken, who was a highly skilled, probably 25 years in computer programming, very well respected in her field. And an 83-year-old, I believe, Yolanda Bakken.
You love the sister.
Oh my gosh, I got her in a deposition. You don't want to go near her. She made it clear she was furious she was not served. She made it clear that she was furious. She found out from her sister wasn't served. And yet this case goes on, and they all believe Gloria was an excellent caretaker, and what is happening to this family is just pure terror as you experienced.
And you can't visualize this from a book to read.
No.
You have to experience it, and this is like saying to somebody, how do you have a baby? How does a woman have a baby? Unless you've had a child, you don't know what it is that you go through.
Well, I do have some books for you. If anybody wants to read about how bad it is from the victim themselves, of course, we have John Wyman's book.
John Wyman.
Completely excellent.
And John Wyman was on the program here.
Recently.
John was on the program.
And John Wyman, his case just got turned on by the Supreme Court. What's going on there? His mother wasn't served. It's clear from the documents.
You know, you asked about the money situation, and we subpoenaed the annuities where they're sending these checks. Where are the 16 checks? We sent 4 subpoenas, never got answered.
It always happens on the 18th floor.
On the 18th floor.
On
and
the 18th
we
floor.
do have, though, 2 checks, and we have the back sides of the checks where it's signed Kimberly Cooper, and you could see where the stamp of what bank it went through was whited out because they didn't do a good job to white it out. So we have those, photostatic copy, we have those.
And those were turned over to the authorities?
We turned everything over.
Oh, and you're still waiting,
And we're
right?
waiting.
We're waiting and waiting
Mother
and
has
waiting.
passed, this February will be 3 years. 3 years, Mother will.
Very sad.
Her birthday is January 31st, and she will have passed, she would have been 100 years old on the 2012. She would have been 102, in good health. And I see they have up on the screen here.
Lots of resources.
StopGuardianAbuse.org, probatesharks.com, probate abuse manual. It's a blog spot. The Mary Sykes, Mary G. Sykes, .wordpress, and there's yours, Denison blog, .marygSykes.com. So if anybody is interested, tap on to any of those sites, and you'll be able to visualize and see what has happened. And you know, your input is most important. And if you're suffering from any of these abuses from the 18th floor, we want a clean house. We want to, it's a new year. Let's get a new broom and sweep and clean house.
Clean up the mess.
And all this monies, by the way, David Mitchell, David Martin, the GAL, bought $1 million mansion in Malibu, California.
I heard that.
Yeah. How do you think he's paying for that?
He's a probate attorney. That's his
He's
main thing.
He's taking
Where did
money
it come
from Mother. He wasn't taking $5 for 2 years. He wasn't even talking. She was dead and in the ground. And yet, ex-Judge Lynn Kawamoto was giving him money, take whatever you want, whatever you need, to, 10,000, 5,000, 8,000, 25,000, whatever you want, because she did that to Miriam Solo. She gave Miriam Solo, $64,000 at one shot, or 25,000. The money was whatever was there.
Now let me give you an example of an honest attorney. I went in and I took on this estate with Marie Owens, and I think they are furious with me because what happened was we've got a guy who's wandering, an elderly gentleman. He's got a wife, and she's in a nursing home, and they wanted the state to come in, throw him in a nursing home, sell his house, get rid of his cars, his bank account, send the income off to a nursing home, and they had 2 daughters. They wanted to throw them into DCFS, which would have been just a horror for them.
Oh, tell me.
They came to me, it was a niece, and I said, you don't have to do that. You do have options. This is how they present it. You have to do it this way. And I said, that's not true. I told the niece, you could petition for guardianship, you can take care of those girls, and the whole 9 yards. Now, fast forward, 14 months later, he is completely happy. We got him back home. He's been in his own home.
Look at that.
We have had fights with the OPG over this.
Sure.
Lots of money going everywhere, and they cut my bill by about 80%. But you know what? I am so happy because every day you save an elderly person on the 18th floor.
You did a good deed.
From having to go to it's a miracle. It
Yeah.
isn't. It is completely a miracle. This is the gentleman's name. It's obviously a public record. Is Robert Olson. I hope everybody continues to pray for him. That nothing will happen in that house. The niece and the nephew are just heroes and heroines for working with me, getting done whatever had to be done. All the hoops they put you through, and you know how that is, Bev.
Yes, yes.
And yet Robert Olson is happy as a clam. He's glad he's there. Unfortunately, his wife, she has diabetes. She had to have portions of her toes amputated, but we got her from a bad nursing home to a much, much better nursing home. She just needs more assistance than can be given.
Well, the nursing home my mother was in was located downtown on Oak Street in Chicago, and there was no reason to keep her that distance from me.
That's correct, yes.
And we checked out the nursing homes up here because the court didn't want her to come to me.
No.
And so we gave them up here. They never even came up here to check it out. But it was the Warren Bar Pavilion, of which Morris is Formas, the same owner of the Park Plaza that my mother lived in, owned that nursing home. And the prerequisite to get into that apartment building was they gave you a sheet of paper, and you had to fill out what bank accounts you had, where your key
Yes.
to your boxes are, how much money you had
Nursing
on hand.
homes are part of
They
it.
want everything.
Right.
And my mother never even told us what she was having. Why would she tell them? But they wanted to know. And that Miriam Solo is related to Morris's Formas. So it was an easy
I think there's a
move.
family connection
It
there.
was a family connection.
And I
an
believe
easy
that
move.
these Formas nursing homes they have a lot of problems.
They are problems.
Right, exactly. They have a lot of problems. They have been under investigation, grand jury. I've heard all kinds of things
Yes.
about them. And they seem to have some kind of system going on. One of the things I most recently published on my blog was a report from the nurses union called Dangerous Choices. I don't know if you've seen it. If you can get on the last few posts on my blog, it talks all about the problems in the nursing homes in the Chicago area. And it is scary. And the scarier part is I was recently right in front of a judge recently, and this judge just wanted to push this poor woman who wants to live with her sister into a nursing home. Crazy. The sister doesn't want to be there. She wants to be with her sister.
Family.
Yes, they want to be with family, and they're pushing her there, and it's because of a fight over the money in the estate. That's all it is. They want to push it off to the OPG. They just wanted it. The sister has taken care of her for years and has a power of attorney. They're trying to cut my bill down to nothing, and I get that. I understand that. That's why I'm running a not-for-profit now.
Well, that's not what they were doing for Miriam Solo.
No, because She puts them in a nursing home.
Yeah, she kills them.
drains
She
the
does.
estate.
She drains the human being.
She doesn't. She looks the other way while they're drugged against their will. There's
She
all
doesn't
kinds-
necessarily. She's
She doesn't
right
care.
there.
Right. She doesn't care. And let me tell you another thing too. We've talked about this before. I'm reminding everybody. There is no psychotropic drug that has been approved by the FDA for anybody over 60. If you find a doctor that's prescribing them, go ahead and report them to the IDPR. They are way too hard on all of their internal organs, their brain, their heart, their kidneys, their lungs. Those psychotropic drugs ruin them. They are actually they are derivatives of the old Thorazine, which was a horse tranquilizer.
Oh.
So be very careful with these drugs. Make sure that the person dehydration. I just talked to a nurse.
It was terrible.
She says all the time, she's up at Lutheran General, she says, I can't talk to you, I'll get in trouble. But I can't figure out why we get in all these seniors at Lutheran General. They are malnourished, they are dehydrated. I fix them up, we send them back to the nursing homes, and they're back with me in 4 to 6 weeks. And it's a cycle, in and out and in and out. I can't report it. I've been told not to report it or I will get in trouble. And I think it's all a part of the system.
Well, we have to be able to break that circle.
Right.
I would hope that this program would be able to do that. If you're having any problems with probate in anywhere you
Anywhere
see
in the
this,
court system, come
anywhere,
to me,
whatever.
let me know. I will put on the blog.
Whatever, if it's Cook County, Lake County, McHenry County.
Correct.
Whatever county you're seeing this in, and the program goes far and wide, please, if you're having a problem and you don't know what to do, contact JoAnne, or you could contact me. We'll have you on the program. You're another one. You're a witness to what is happening to our seniors.
And the court system.
And
Our
the court system.
is.
You know, when you come into the court, you assume, and you should never assume, you assume that there's honor, integrity of what's going on. So the fact that when we went into the court, this is what they were carrying on in there, even if we wouldn't have showed up. Our attorney was unable to make it one day, and they still were continuing. And I said to the judge, Judge Kawamoto, I said, we're not being represented by a judge. She said, well, that's too bad. That's too bad. You know, and she continued on. They had the people from the bank there. They were drawing money. The guardian ad litems, they were drawing money. I mean, what is the matter with these people? Why didn't somebody say, the daughter's been caring for her mother for 5.5 years. Why should we change it at this stage and give the guardianship to someone who is mentally deficient, having mental problems? I mean, she's ill. She's ill. She's a poor soul herself. And,
Well, the whole thing makes no sense. Why?
and we
are
don't
they
even
throwing-
know if she's being guardianized. That could very well be.
Well, anybody who's mentally ill is actually, under the law, not qualified to become a guardian.
Well, under the law, they were not practicing the law
That's
on the 18th floor in Judge Kawamoto's chambers. Actually, we had a number of judges that heard the case, and when the dirty work had to come about, Judge Kawamoto just seemed to have disappeared for the time being, and then she reappeared. I mean,
I've seen that before.
and then they would hold court in the morning and not tell us about it, and we were in the afternoon. What is that all about? And one more thing, which is very, very important. Mother had in her will that, oh, by the way, her will just automatically disappeared. Nobody knows where it's at. Nobody knows where the will is.
Then it was never filed.
Nothing was filed. And to the best of our knowledge, because it couldn't find the will. And so the long and the short of it is, Mother said she had enough finances to keep her moving for a long time, which she did. I didn't even know how much she had. I didn't tally anything at that point. Her attorney knew what it was, and he's in Skokie, and we went to her attorney, and Mother said no matter what it takes, and we could subpoena his records, he said he doesn't want to get involved. He's involved. He's got copies of that.
Yes,
we
I'm
can
sure.
subpoena his records.
Yes, you can subpoena
Okay.
law firm.
And
That's correct.
we didn't know. She said, keep her alive no matter what. She wants to be kept alive no matter what. I said, Mother, whatever you say. And the attorney agreed, and he put it down, and that was it. And then we come to find on Mother's wrist is a bracelet that says DNR.
Right.
What is that? We didn't know any of until we had to pick her up from the morgue, and then we cut off the bracelet, and we have that bracelet.
That's terrible.
DNR, do not resuscitate, when her explicit instructions were
To keep her alive.
keep her alive no matter what. But Judge Kawamoto gave away my mother's money and took her money, and she went to Texas to flee, and David Martin bought a mansion in Malibu with mother's money. We don't know how much money they make. Where's the money? And that Miriam
Where's the
Soul-
accountability?
Yeah, where's Miriam Soul bought a house for cash? Big bucks for cash. Where is she getting her money from?
Well, I think if you start pulling the property records, even from the ARDC, the judges, all of these attorneys involved, you're going to find a lot of really strange things. That's one of the things that...
How do we prosecute these people? We're making a public appearance. We're live. How do we let those in media print know what's going on? Those in radio print know what's going on? We're on cable here, but we'd like to send this out to everybody all over about what has transpired to the seniors, the dead, the dying, the disabled, those that can't speak for themselves.
Right.
I mean, what can we do? What can we do to further the awareness of what's going on the 18th floor?
One of the things I did want to talk about is the fact that I see these things in the property record. I would like to go and charge misconduct, but the way the ERDC is, if I go into court now and I charge misconduct and I want to serve subpoenas on the bank to find out how the judges are making their money, how the ERDC is making all this money, you know, because they obviously have state jobs that don't pay that much, and how these court officials are making all this money, and they're only supposed to be getting like a couple $100s an hour and running a law firm, the ERDC will come after me. I can't even today go in and charge misconduct and ask or subpoena the records I need to show that this is going on. And it's really, really sad. The ERDC has a self-fulfilling prophecy of just cover-up. If I go in there, I charge misconduct, I get in trouble. But to do my job, I have to be able to do that, and all of that needs to change.
You know, Channel 9, WGN, did a 3-day or 4-day segment on the judges in Cook County.
Correct.
I think it was Mark Sapelsa. It was a letdown. I thought that this guy is really a reporter getting to what's going on. This was the biggest flub up I've ever seen in my life, and I had such respect for Mark Sapelsa, but he didn't do what needed to be done. Who cares where they live?
Right.
We want to know how they got the money to do what they're doing.
And are they following court procedure? Who is actually watching the judges? And you're absolutely right. They didn't get down to what you get down to on this program. What you are doing is what everybody should be doing across the United States. If you have, local cable, or if you're doing cable blogging or whatever, these are the types of things we need for people to come out and talk about in court.
They need to, the court needs to know that if they're going to work under the cloak of secrecy, that they're going to be found out. At some point, why would, Judge Kawamoto leave town? She's never been elected, never. She was always appointed.
Correct.
And Chief Judge Evans, you know that. Judge Evans, you know us for 35 years. Why did you keep rehiring her? She has a very bad write-up. She was doing terrible things, maybe because she was the only Asian.
No, Bev. They know what they're doing. They know when they put their puppets in place. And what I'm told from other people who have called me and said, don't use my name, but apparently what they do is they'll get an honest and respectable judge to run for a judgeship. then what'll happen is they'll tell them, or they just suddenly retire, and that means it
Yes.
goes to the judicial community. Then they appoint somebody who will
Suddenly
do exactly
retire.
what they want,
Yes.
when they want it. And, you could tell from being in Judge Kawamoto's courtroom, she didn't know what was up or down
No.
because she was being told what to do. There is something going on that floor.
Well, not only that, is that she came up from the pits from DCFS and juvenile court in Chicago, in Cook County. And that is an
The
absolute...
state's attorney, right?
No, she was a judge. She was
Okay.
sitting on the bench, putting these kids in foster placement and all over the place. Nobody knew whose kids were what. Some were brothers and sisters that were divided. They put Hispanics in with black families. They put the black families in with white kids. They didn't know what was going on. And still, the court was collecting money, and these GALs were collecting money, and the parents couldn't get their kids back. They couldn't retrieve their children.
The Kids for Cash program.
The Kids for Cash.
Right.
So,
And that is a very common scam that's going on across the United States. It's been going on for years.
we were the originators of VOCAL, Victims of Child Abuse Laws, and my husband and I were the ones here in the state of Illinois that ran VOCAL, VOCAL. And if your child was taken from you, this is what we did. And as a matter of fact, we had Karen Bowes as the contact person, and these people needed an attorney. They used Karen Bowes because she was my daughter's first attorney. And Karen knew Kimmy when all this was going on, and she knew Kimmy was mentally ill. And now Kimmy at 41, and she let her just destroy my mother. We need
terrible.
for you to tell the public how they could reach you, give a phone number, whatever.
Sure. My phone number is 312-553-1300. I am on the internet. I am now running a new charity. It's a not-for-profit in Illinois. I've changed things around. It's called Justice for, the number 4, everyone, the number 1.com, and there is a blog. You can get to it from my other blog, marygSykes.com. And we are going to have actually a separate Illinois not-for-profit that will work on these issues. We're going to try and get better legislation. I hope we're going to be able to work on getting in Illinois a loss of consortium statute between parent and child, or close family member, friend. And that's very important because we just see so many cases of this isolation.
Right.
A loss of consortium between parent and child means that you're going to be able to sue these
Yes.
people
That's what we want to
when they wrongfully keep you away from your mother. It's terrible.
We have a very dear friend, Nancy Thorner, and you can, Nancy also is a blogger. If you punch in nancyjthorner.com, our story will come up. You can read our story, and it'll tell exactly what happened. And if you read